Hello everyone, my name's Derek Cameron, and today I'll be covering data replication options for moving data from eBusiness Suite to ADW. I work on the Code Innovate team, check out that URL. I'll be covering deploying the Marketplace eBusiness Suite instance, covering ADW data transforms, Oracle data integration, ODI Web, ODI Classic, and database links. So let's get started. We'll start by deploying EBS. Obviously, if you already have EBS running in your instance, you won't have to do this. We'll use the Marketplace image, and so you go down to Marketplace, go to All Applications, filter by Oracle provider, and then do a search on Business, and then you'll find the eBusiness Suite image there. It's a stack that gets deployed, eBusiness Suite 12.228. I followed the link, the second link down there. I followed that for instructions. I did not do all of the items on there. I only cared about the database. And so you don't need the app stack running. You don't need to prepare for that. If you want to do that, that's fine, but it isn't required for data replication. I'm going to use an existing VCN that I created some time ago. It's a regional VCN. It's got a public subnet. I've got my own keys as well. I don't cover that. It's pretty simple to create keys yourself. You can do it with the Cloud Shell upper right. You research that. It's very simple. Cloud Shell can do that for you as well if you don't want to do that on your client machine. So I've already got an image running. I'll show you where that is. I'm going into Compute, into Images. There's EBS there. I do need to know the IP address because I've got to start the database and do some other things as part of the instructions. So I'll go to my key directory. I'll SSH into the public IP of the eBusiness Suite image. And once I'm in there, let me just flip back over the documentation, highlight a few things. I've already done this. You'll need to do these steps, but it's the single node deployment there. So I'm just going to highlight a few things that I already did. I updated the operating system. I enabled instance level firewall access to port 8000. Updated the host names as well. Now, one thing that isn't in here is that you need to also go into your own subnet. So that firewall is on the image itself, but you need to go into your own subnet on your VCN that you deployed and open up port 8000. I'll show you where that is. Just go into the subnet, go into security lists, and you'll see an ingress. You would add an ingress rule, and you can see the ones that are already there. I set up ones for EBS, for ODI Classic, and Data Integrator Web. So we'll be adding those as part of the steps in the subsequent sessions of this presentation. So let's go back. We'll go back into go back to the steps. Again, update the hosts file, update the host name. And again, I've done all this, changed the sysadmin's password. I would not leave it the way it is. It's a very common password, so go ahead and do that. And then start the database. So if we go back to the database, the SSH login here, you do have to be Oracle, so we'll sudo Oracle. And we are going to start it by running that script. It comes with the image. There's one for starting, there's one for stopping. There's one for the database tier, and there's one for the application tier. Now, it'll only take a few minutes to run, to start up. And once it's started up, we can go directly to creating integrations. So data transforms come with Autonomous Database, and if you'll find it under Database, you'll go to your database that you deployed. I'll just quickly show you how to create a database. It's very, very, very simple. I've got 2 running already, but you just go into the create. All it's really going to need from you is the password. That's just about it. Everything else comes with it. So I've already, as I said, already created it. But it really literally is a single click and the entering of your administrator password. So let's go into DGC ADW, and you go to database actions. And there's a lot of things that have been developed in database actions. They keep adding to this list of services in the database month after month. It's now quite extensive what you can do here, but we're going to focus on data transforms. And really, replicating data is very, very simple. We'll go in with the admin user ID password, and it does spin up a Docker image, and it takes a few minutes. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to do this. And if you leave the instance alone for even 15-20 minutes, you'll have to, when you click in here, it'll start up again. You don't lose anything, but it is, does take a minute. We've got transform and load. I picked the load, which is the simplest option, and it's just a wizard-based process. All you do is select the source data, source connection, source schema, and then the target connection. And again, the connection name, it's got the schema. Where do you want the table created? I'm going to create it in demo. Very, very simple. And then I'll go in and show you one that I've already set up. So go to connections. This is where I created the connection. You'll see I've got 2, the EBS. And if we open up EBS, it's just a JDBC connection, which is the host port SID. The password, let's test the connection. Connection tests out okay. Now we'll go to DGC ADW. It's a slightly different one, uses a wallet and a credential file. There it is there, the JDBC connection. Test the connection. Now, this is all part of the service, so actually I don't think you need the wallet, it's already got it. Go into projects, we create a project, and then in a project, we create a data flow, and then we don't need a data flow. Let me back up a step. The data flows if you want to do transformations. You can see there all those transformations. We're not going to do that. You could do that. You definitely could do that. Like do no transformations, shorts and target, but they've given a super easy one called data loads. It kind of bypasses all that, makes it even simpler. You look on the left, you'll see it's got a connection and a schema, and then it just lists all the tables. You pick a table, and then you pick an action, which is recreate, truncate, append, do not load. We'll go down to the GL balances. I picked the GL balances. It was a moderately sized table, 8.2 million rows, about a half gigabyte. So I wanted it moderately large so we could compare the load times between the different options, and they're very significantly different. So there's the target schema. And then I've already run the load. And so the last thing is to go to jobs, and you'll see the job in there. There's a little bit flaky. Sometimes you have to, first of all, be aware you have to actually set the, if you've run it the day before, you'll have to go back, pick that up, go back into jobs. It seems to be a little sticky, the UI there. And there it is there. So there's the jail balances load. And it did take a very long time, I would say, 223,000 seconds. That is 6 hours, 39 minutes to load really Not a heck of a lot of data. I don't know why it takes that long. I'm guessing that it's part of the Docker container process, which I think this whole process is running. All the other options are far, far, far faster. So I wanted this to be a complete end-to-end run of all the options. And so let's move on to the next one, which is Oracle Data Integrator or data integration. It's data integration. It's a managed service, meaning you don't spin up a compute instance. You simply spin up a data integration instance. And the first thing is you create data assets, source and target. Again, source and target. Connections look very similar to the connections that we set up previously. And you'll see that it's got the host, port, and SID, and that gets prompted when you create it. I've already created these. And there's your system, your password. Let's test the connection. And that is EBS. That's the source. You'll see there, yeah. And then let's go into the target. Well, we've also got the schemas as well. Schemas pop up. You'll see that. We're going to be working with General Ledger, the GL schema. And you'll see when we pick the object that we'll be able to pick the actual table name itself when we create the mapping. So let's go back into the 80. Well, this is just the create step, what it looks like. Pretty simple. Let's go into ADW, I should say. Again, this one looks quite similar to EBS. And you're going to have a default connection, and we're going to have a schema. We're going to be replicating the data to the demo schema. There it is there. Password, user ID password. And there's the TNS alias picked up from the wallet automatically for you. We'll test the connection. And there's the schemas. We're going to be working with demo. So once you've got the data assets set up, we're going to go in and we're going to create a project. Again, I've created one. It's just a container. We'll call it Project EBS. And we're going to create a data flow. And the data flow is going to give you an option to select your source and target. Again, I've created one, so you just drag the source and target icons from the left. When you click on each object, you'll notice the parameters for that object pop up. This is where you select the actual table. There it is, source and target. And so you go into GL balances. And where did I select that? The asset is right there, the connection is there, the schema is there, and there's the data entity. They call it a data entity, but you can select that there. And then you go to the target, the asset's ADW, the schema's demo, the entity. I create a new one. I'm creating a new one, and so I'll give it a name. GL balance is DI, and we're going to do an insert strategy there. So pretty simple. And once we do that, we're going to create a task. So we have a project. A project has data flows. Data flows are added to a task, and this is an integration task. And there's other types of tasks, but for this, it's an integration task. And the integration task is going to call a data flow, and the data flow we just created. And so there it is there. It's really just a container. And then you do need to publish it to an application right there. So that gets published to an application. And when you do that, it takes a minute or so to publish that to an application. Let's go into applications. And again, I just use the default application there. I can publish to other applications. And that's one way that they can differentiate between dev prod, test dev prod. And so it actually ultimately goes into patches when it's being deployed, but after patches and it's successful, it goes into the tasks of an application, right? So we have tasks, and then we have tasks that are deployed to an application, and that's what this one is. And then at this point, we can run it. And we can schedule it as well. I mean, we can schedule it, we can look at previous runs, and we can unpublish it and remove it from the project. But so you notice the data read was about 515 megabytes, 8.2 million rows. Let's take a look and see how long it took. So it took about 7 minutes, 1 second overall. About 1 minute of that, almost 1 minute of that was just waiting in the queue. So the actual execution time was really about 6 minutes, which is obviously dramatically faster than the embedded version. So let's move on to the third option, which is the second option, which is the ODI Web. Again, that's a deployment in Marketplace. And we'll go back to Marketplace. We'll go filter on Publisher Oracle. And we're going to pick the Oracle Data Integrator option. And we'll start with the web. So filter on Integrator. And there it is there, Integrator Web Edition. And again, I'd encourage you to go and look at the instructions. It's pretty simple. Using data transforms. We're going to launch the instance. I've already done it, but let's go through the steps. It's going to be a compute image, right? And so the compute image is like any other compute image, except you've got all the software installed and configured. It does need an SSH key. I'll use my same key. And it's pretty much, that's about it. Then you just hit deploy. I've already done that again. Then we'll go back and take a look at that. Go back into compute, go into instances, and you'll see ODI, and there's a name there. You could have renamed it. There's the IP address, and we're going to be connecting to that. And understand this is running on, this will be running on port, I think it's 9999. The web version runs on 9999. And if we go back into the Marketplace and we go back up to the documentation working with Oracle Data Integrator, that was the link in there. You'll see down here that there's the address there. You just bring up the IP with the 99, then Oracle Data Transforms. And there's a user ID password. You would have given it a password when you deployed it, so you should know that. Now let's go to, well, the other thing is, again, you need to open up that port. We'll just remind you where that is. That's in the VCN of the deployed image, and there it is there, port 999 for Data Integrator Web. It's an ingress rule. And I've got this, this image bookmarked, so let's go to the bookmark. And it's going to look an awful lot like the data transforms on ADB, except it's going to run much quicker. So supervisor and then the password. And when we log into Data Integrator, we're going to set up, again, a data flow very similar to what we've already done. It's just going to be done in the web version now. So we've got connections. I've got a few other connections in here. They're very similar connections. And we'll just review that again. It's the IP address of EBS on the source. We'll test that. And then there's the target we set up. It's the demo schema. And there it is there. And we'll test that. And when we've done that, we'll again create a project, create a data flow, or we'll actually do a data load. There it is, a data load there. And there's the flow. Now the flow, remember the flow is for ETL, and I set one up here just as a demo. You'll see there it has nothing to do with the GL balances, but just to show you, use flows if you need to do ETL, just if you want something really quick and with no transforms, you just want to replicate data, go to the data load. There it is there. Again, you pick your table from the list, and when you run the execution, this one will end up taking about 22 minutes. So Remember, the one on the database took 6 hours, 36 minutes. Data transforms or data integration, the managed service took 6 minutes or 7 minutes. This is going to take 22 minutes. I'll publish a list at the very end of this recording that lists them all with their times. And then here's the job here. And here's where you'll see the transform, the load. There's the duration, 1,309 seconds. And there's the list of steps. It does load it into staging. That's notable because if you're really tight on space, it's going to create a temporary table, and then it's going to load it from the staging table into a main table. So it's really got to have 2 copies of it at some point before it deletes. It does delete, it does clean up afterwards. So let's move on to ODI Classic. ODI Classic's been around 25 years. It's extremely complete when it comes to support. This is again, it's a marketplace image, and it's under Integrator, under the Oracle Images, Oracle Apps. There it is there, Data Integrator Classic. It's right there. I would encourage you to look at that. It's far more sort of, I want to call it complicated to set up. It does support, has most extensive support for integrators and integrations and transformation features than any of the other platforms, but it's also can be a little bit time consuming to set up. And I'll show you how to do that, although I didn't actually run loads on this. There's the image there. I need the IP address. I want to SSH into that image. Or I need to actually, we're going to be VNCing into this image actually. We have to open up the firewall on the VCN. It's going to be for VNC 5901. You'll see it down there at the bottom. 5901 is open. And there are a few steps. It's pretty simple. I won't cover them. I want to cover this, cover all these options without taking up too much time. There's some steps. I've gone to the documentation. You have to SSH into the image, and then you have to open up the ports. You just got to remember to do that. I've already done it. They use some tunneling there. You don't necessarily need to tunnel, but just follow the direct instructions. It should be fine. Now I'm going to go to my remote desktop client. I use Linux OEL7, and let's connect to the image. And here it is here. And let's look at the setup. There's a repository that's in there already. You just need to connect to it. Again, with your supplied password when you deployed the image, you had provided it with a password. Right here, connect to your image. I'm using embedded MySQL. There is an option to create the repository on ADW or ADB. You could have done that, but this is self-contained. It's running MySQL right on the image itself. I've deployed it also on ADB. It's pretty simple. You have to provide the connection details. The one great thing, you go into transforms to set your source and target up. It picks up automatically for you. It picks up your autonomous databases. It's aware of what you have deployed in terms of databases. It doesn't pick up EBS. It doesn't know about EBS. It's running on a compute image, but it does know about ADB. So that 1387, DGC ADW 1387, that was entered automatically. I didn't have to do anything, which is really great. EBS is another matter. I did have to create that. It's an Oracle database type. You'll see there the JDBC connection is right there. And then you've got, the schema, user ID password. You double click on that node there and you'll see it entered as GL, or it's not the password, but GL, and the workspace GL. And that's pretty much it for setting up the connections. And we'll just take a quick look here. Again, the JDBC connection, that was picked up for you automatically, but it's just going into the wallet, into the TNS names in the wallet zip file and picking that up. So there it is there. And you had a couple of other options that were, again, done for you. And then after we do that, we got to go to Designer on the left there, and you have to create data models. We're going to create two models, one for ADB and one for GL, or not GL, but for the source. And so I have to reverse engineer, like, where did these tables come from? Well, when you go in here, you run a reverse engineer job, and you'll see it right up there, reverse engineer. When you click on that, you basically select a filter. I wanted only GL tables and a context. Hit reverse engineer there, and if you click on that, it'll start crawling through the GL schema and picking up all the different tables that are in there. Now on the ADB model, we also need an ADB model as well. And then when you go, we need a diagram. So you right click, create a GL balances diagram. And when we have a diagram, we're going to drag the GL balances from the source into that diagram. And then what we do is we go on that object, we go into the object, and we actually, to create a mapping automatically for you, all you do is, let's see, where was that? Right click there, and then create mappings in. You create mappings in. You do right click on that, create mappings in. You can manually create it, but it'll create the mapping for you. I like that automated feature myself. And then once we have that, we'll go up to projects, and we go into the folder, and there's the map that we created automatically. And then if we open it, it opens in logical view, and go down to the physical tab. And there it is there. And then you click on the staging table, and it'll have the integration. The integration, look down at the bottom there, you'll see that it actually creates a database link. This I did not do because with the wallet, you needed to configure TLS, transport layer security. I didn't have that set up, and that's what's by default needed for a database link. And so you'll notice there's a lot of other ways in ODI to be able to transform that data and move it. Again, ODI Classic is really got a huge support for a lot of different technologies, different approaches to integrating data. It just takes more setup and configuration. Now the very last one, and I don't have a timing for that. If it was through a database link, it should take the same time as a database link. So here's the steps for creating a database link from EBS. Now this is from EBS back to ADB. The customer that I was working with didn't want the EBS credentials shared anywhere. And so we decided we were going to create the database link inside the EBS database. So we've got the steps there. We're going to have to get the wallet to begin with because we need that cwallet.sso file. So I'm going to go to the database connection, download the wallet. It's a zip file. You need to unzip the file to get the actual wallet file out of it. It's a bundle of files, actually. What you download here is a bundle of files. It's not just the wallet. It's the TNS names and SQLnet.aura. And you're going to unzip it, and then you're going to copy that wallet up to EBS. So let's do that. Go back to the operating system. Here it is here. You'll see the wallet. I've extracted it already. And I've got a path to that wallet. So SCP IDRSA. So there's the cwallet.ssh. There's the SCP command. We're going to push it up to the EBS instance. Then we're going to SSH in. There it is there. We just pushed it up there. And we're going to move it to temp, TMP, and we're going to change the permissions to allow Oracle we're going to use sudo change the owner to Oracle that file, and then we can move it to the wallet directory. So there it is there. Let's go back to our instructions. Right, so we've created, and we need to create a wallet directory. That's it there. I've already created it, but it can really go anywhere as long as it's somewhere that Oracle has the permissions to access. You're going to edit the SQLnet.aura file, and we're going to add the wallet path to it. Now, I will tell you that SQLnet.aura, there's a lot of homes. There's a couple of homes in this EBS directory, and I had a bit of a time figuring out where those directories are and which ones are actually active, because the scripts control all of it. So I would use those paths because that is the active SQLnet.aura file right there. I've just editing the instructions here. I just realized I was not quite right. So we're going to log in as Oracle, and I'm just going to go back to the directory, right? I'm going to make that directory. I created it already. I'm going to copy the wallet to it. And let's just list it because, again, I've already created it. And there's the C wallet that I copied in that second step, cwallet.sso. So now the wallet's in our wallet directory. You have to tell the SQLnet.aura file where that wallet directory is. And so let's just do a cat on the file. Again, I've edited it in advance. And there it is there, wallet location equals. When you come into this file initially, that wallet path isn't there. It's not there. So you need to add within double quotes the wallet, and then you have to have SSL server DN match equals yes. You have to have that. Those are the two changes you need to make, and you need to save that. And there's the wallet location. Create a database link. This is actually where you create the database link, and use the description equals. Copy that from your TNS names. Copy that whole thing, not the alias, but that whole path there. You can get it right out of the TNS names from the zip file. You remember you unzipped it to get the wallet file there too. So create the database link. And what you're going to find is that you're going to get an error initially, and that's the reason is that we actually have to set the permit. We actually have to whitelist and add an ACL for the EBS instance. So now we've gone over to Autonomous Database. We have to say it's okay if EBS, this database over here, accesses and reads and writes data to our database. And so you're going to go in here. I've got the database IP, or I've got the EBS instance IP, but I also put Data Integrator Web there. Any client that accesses the database when this gets turned on, and there's the VCN OSID. Any client that accesses, once you turn that on, you need to add that IP address here. And so when you're done this whole exercise, if you want to keep using your ADB, you'll probably turn that off. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself getting locked out and having to go back in here. So, and there's one more thing that you have to do. I realized, I made a mistake. I forgot to turn on the TLS flag. So it's a two-step process. Mutual TLS, I forgot that. Let's go back here, turn that off, save the changes. Every time you make a change here, it does take, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to update the database to reflect that. But again, once you make this change here, you won't be able to connect with SQL Developer. What we're doing is we're connecting to SQL Developer to EBS, and then from EBS, we are connecting to the database, and it's been whitelisted. So there it is there. So I'm just doing quick /sysdate from dual at the database link. There it is there. And again, I just showed you the error if you forget that other step. And then you can insert into demo.gl balances underscore DI. I called it DI at select star from gl.gl balances. I have to put the database link name in there. I missed that. At DGCADB link. And this, take a guess how long this is going to take. We've got the fastest one so far has been data integration. It's been 7 minutes. I felt right from the beginning if you used a database link it would be fast. And yes, it is fast. It's 90 seconds. It's 1.5 minutes versus 94 seconds versus 7 minutes data integration, 22 minutes data integrator web, and 6 hours, 36 minutes data transforms in the console. I will say that be aware that you have to, for database links, DML is supported, but not DDL. So if I try to create a table here, it will fail. It'll say database, well, that's, I forgot the database link. The database link reference in here. And you'll see that it's going to cough up an error saying DDL operations not supported through database links. It shouldn't be a big deal. You'll just create this, the database tables manually, and then you'll be able to insert into them. So there it is there, DDL operations not allowed. So here are the final results of all the different load options. ADW data transforms took about 6 hours, 36 minutes. OCI data integration, about 7 minutes. That's the managed service. ODI Web, which is a compute image deployed from Marketplace, was 22 minutes. ODI Classic, also deployed from Marketplace. No time available, depends on your choice of integration. The default is a database link. And lastly, a database link, straight table to table copy, is 94 seconds. I hope you found this useful.